Hey everyone, so I wanted to take a brief moment here and go through a treatment plan example like I had promised I would. So I'm going to share screen. Instead of doing the treatment plan in real time, I have an example treatment plan kind of filled out. And so I want to go through that with you. Um, and then I'll upload this also into what will be the week 8 module, just for your reference. Um, so this is using the format that is in D2L. Um, all of that information, you'll add your name. I need to update that to say Commonwealth University because everything else does now. It's a client name. You don't have to put a date of birth, age roughly. Um, I'm just going to look at it to make sure that you filled it in. There's no way for me to check it for you. Date of evaluation, you can list this as the the first time that you met the client. You can do it does not have to be earmarked a specific date. Usually when you would do a treatment plan would be like a month into a case, so it wouldn't necessarily be the case opening date, but it can be in this case. I have no particular preference, but just some date consistent with nowish. So let's just update this. I had done this example last semester and saved it. So primary concerns and issues, this should be a decent sized paragraph. This is probably a good size. Um, giving some basic information about the presenting problems. So if you were to write a narrative paragraph about your client, and so in this case, presents with symptoms related to anxiety and depression. Anxiety symptoms appear to be more present, so more present than the depression symptoms. These are reported to manifest in the form of shaking legs, hair pulling, blah, blah, blah. These may also manifest in the form of history of binge drinking, though at this time he's reporting that drinking and substance use is under control. Was assessed for suicidal ideation and plan. No such ideation or plan was voiced. We'll continue to assess through client sessions, also reports relationship concerns with spouse and anxiety related to co-parenting and son Grayson. So in this case, you don't need to put everything but this should be just um, a healthy paragraph snapshot of what's going on. Don't do a diagnosis here. You're going to do that in this section. And so this differential diagnosis section, you should have a primary and either secondary or differentials or however you want to list them. But go through just like you were doing in the note, give me the diagnosis, but then also give me your rationale for that diagnosis. And I've had some folks ask already, it is appropriate to have, Charles entered counseling with diagnosis of such and such, of generalized anxiety disorder. Diagnosis was prescribed by previous mental health professionals. However, it has been observed that Charles also is indeed presenting with blah, 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 consistent with a diagnosis of whatever, if you're agreeing with that one. If you aren't agreeing with it, you can say that he came in with major depressive disorder, but up here you have him social anxiety disorder, so he's presenting with major depressive disorder. He came in with a diagnosis of major depressive disorder. However, this counselor has observed, and then go into your symptoms, which are more consistent with the diagnosis of social anxiety disorder. If you were doing this for real, you would do this exact same thing. You would want to get some more information though about when that diagnosis was given, by whom, by what facility, all that sort of stuff. For our purposes, I don't need that. But so give the primary and then any secondary, differentials that you're working on and some rationale for each of those. Okay. Medications prescribing physician, if any, you can just list no medications identified. If you know what medications they are, you can list them. I don't need this to be significant. I don't want you to delve into an entire medical history with your volunteer client. If you were doing this in real life, you would list the medications, who prescribed them, when they were prescribed, like as much their dosage, their frequency, all that sort of stuff, as much information as you could get. Here, you don't really need to do that. I just want you to acknowledge it. If you know what some medications are, if they've mentioned them to you, list them. Don't need to know who, from whom, when, any of that sort of stuff, but you can list them. If not, just the medications identified as appropriate. Strength, resources, and skills of client and family systems. So you're going to put, again, a healthy paragraph similar to the presenting problems or primary concerns, but a healthy paragraph about the strengths that the client brings in. Consider things like, someone who has dealt with a lot of adversities may be resilient because they're still here and they're still working through it. So, you may want to reframe some of your thoughts around this. This is some good practice of taking things that people are struggling with and identifying them as strengths and skills. Open to work is a great skill. Showing up for sessions is an appropriate strength. If they're not doing those things, then don't list it. But if they are, then that's great. Resources and family system should be the same. I didn't actually give a good example here, so let's just do that real quick. So Charles, healthy relationship with two parents. They let me think of these things. They life with they are needs. As is process. This is from I'm using a composite client that I've used before in cases. So Charles is in the process of divorce. His wife goes from um yeah. So there's resources and family systems. Okay, and then we get into treatment goals. Make sure the goals directly connect to the primary issues and the objectives or stepping stones to help the client meet those goals. That is something that I will check. So what I'll check is I'm not looking for specific goals, but I want to make sure that the goal, if you're talking about Charles will better manage his anxiety, then the diagnosis should be anxiety related. If you've diagnosed him with something like um, I don't know, a somatoform disorder or something like that, which is a disorder where someone's experiencing physical health problems. Most folks are going to diagnose with anxiety, depression, or adjustment disorders. I recognize that, and that's totally appropriate. But let's say you were diagnosed with something unique, or even just you diagnosed with depression. The goals should not then speak to, especially the first goal, should not speak to anxiety or something completely otherwise. The goal should link to the diagnosis in some way. Um, so we'll manage his anxiety as evidenced by a reduction in symptoms from 5 out of 5 times daily to 2 out of 5 times daily. So we want to see a decrease in anxiety related symptoms. Objective. We'll examine themes present with family of origin that help to inform of expectations surrounding being a father and a husband. So I'm in this case thinking that he's putting too much pressure on himself related to possibly family of origin related issues. Somewhere he was taught what it was to be a father. He doesn't feel like he's measuring up to that. That's leading to the anxiety. So I should be able to see kind of a connection there. Again, there could be some differences here. It may be the order in which you list them. I would say that that's one of the most common things that I run into with students is they put these objectives in an order that doesn't quite make sense. Like the examination stuff should come first before the changing stuff, if that makes sense. But other than that, usually I see the flow. It should go from diagnosis to the goal. That should make sense. And then the sub goals should be ways that we're working up to this. So the sub objectives, again, the wording is different than what I'm used to, should work to complete the goal. So maybe if after we examine identity related stuff, another goal could be Charles would better manage his anxiety. So Charles will identify by coping strategies that he was symptoms, and then we would probably do 1-1 Charles will attempt realize one above building strategies identified since he was one coping strategy identified the third day. We'll do 5 on each side. But we want to make the goals measurable so that we can figure out, ideally, quantifiably, when we've completed a goal. That's what's meant by SMART goals and stuff like that. They're measurable, they're attainable. He should pretty easily be able to examine these things. This would probably be through a session. Identify 5 coping strategies. This is probably something that he would do outside and report back into us. Similar here. But a way that we can measure this stuff is to see if, so that, managing identified by reduction in symptoms, we want to maybe add some sort of, this is where you would list your interventions, but under assessment procedures, self-report is good. If you can come up with a more empirical method of measuring, so maybe an assessment tool or something like that that could be used, that's even better. And I would like to see at least one of those sort of objective methods of measurement somewhere in your 2 goals. That would be ideal, because self-report is one thing, but I want you to really think about how you're going to know that a goal is completed, and identify that there. So interventions should be kind of a paragraph here. Assessment procedures should again be, 1 or 2 or 3 methods with which you're going to assess these different goal areas. And then same sort of format here for the second goals and objectives. The interventions that you're using should make sense with with what you're trying to accomplish. These are very easy goals that I'm just pulling right off the top of my head. Try to pull some interventions and so some goal areas from your theoretical orientation if possible. That would be great, but still try to make them somehow attainable and measurable. I looked at goals as they were coming up in the first set of progress notes. I didn't make a ton of notes on them because most folks were just kind of getting skeletons of those sort of things. But as the progress notes go on, I'm going to try to give you some feedback to try to make it so that really, by the time you're turning in the treatment plan, you should just be doing a lot of copying and pasting in this area with some additional stuff filled out. But it should be pretty easy to pull from the progress notes that you've done in the past to fill in these areas. So that will hopefully give you kind of a gist of it. Upcoming review date, it will be your last counseling sessions date. So just a quick notation there to kind of close off the treatment plan. So hopefully that is helpful for you. If you have any specific questions, let me know, but I wanted to get you kind of thinking about treatment planning as soon as possible so that we can continue to move on to some of the more case-oriented stuff during our discussions. Thanks, and look forward to seeing you all online.